We're in the west extension of Trench 6. It's the sort of middle of the second week on site in our 2015 season, and we are thinking about lifting this wooden artefact from on top of the wooden platform. I think Graham Dixon's come up with some strategies to be going through first, so hand over to Graham.
Exactly the same as I was just saying a second ago. We want to be, the idea of we're sliding a board underneath it, so we're lifting it up evenly all the way across, right? Yep. So we want to get that board underneath without putting as little strain or pressure on the artefact either sideways or in a twisting motion. So we need to clear sort of the platform, which has already been recorded extensively over the last couple of seasons, away from the side that we're actually going to be sliding the board under. The question still remains whether to slide the board from where Lally is towards Tom, or from where the camera is towards me. Which one is going to put the least strain on it? I mean, it's slightly curved, so if you start sliding a board under from this way, it's going to put more pressure on the two far ends, because it's almost become one with the soil. You move the soil underneath, it's going to move the artefact that's sitting on the soil until that sort of comes apart. And again, if you start coming from this direction, it's curved, so it's going to be pushing almost like a bow being pulled back, or the string, but the bow bend. It's going to be similar to that. Either way, we're going to have to move, clear an area around it, so we've got enough space to slide the board underneath without having to push the board down too much and then strain it up. Because again, that's just going to cause more material to be pushed upwards. And the artefact is, I'm imagining, similar to some of the wood here, that if you do that, I imagine actually it's going to be a fair amount more fragile than the wood that's just been laid down. If it's been stripped and carved, there is the possibility that it's going to sort of splinter upwards, twist. My suggestion, I think, would be to take it from where Lally is towards Tom, but we try and excavate some of the material underneath it at the edges, so that when we do slide the board underneath, it's not getting caught up on those far two ends of the artefact first before it hits the middle. If that makes sense. You get where I'm coming from, Tom?
Yeah.
I feel that doing it from the southern-ish end of the trench this way is going to push upwards, but it may be stronger in that direction. Got any thoughts? I suggest we dig out an area, at least down to the level, maybe even slightly lower, the level we're going to slide the board under, towards Lally. Nice big area so we can get the board flat. We've not got a flat board. Dig underneath it a bit so it's not having to push all the way through the soil, but obviously not too much, so that the artefact's going to tip over and just lift it like that, really. Maybe slide the board in, then we could excavate a little bit from the edges to make sure that it can get all the way into where the middle of the bow is, or slide it all the way through. Does that make sense?
I think so, yes.
So the very far tips will almost be just hanging free, but obviously not so much that it's going to put over a large amount of strain on it in a downward direction because of its own weight.
We need to cut the board to get it into this box. The artefact will fit in the box with the board hole. Do you think we should cut the board prior to lifting the artefact and have a smaller board with irregular edges, or cut the board when the artefact's on it, which will...
The artefact only fit in diagonally. We've got no bigger boxes.
Not in terms of area, we've got deeper ones. But not in terms of area.
Do you want Kaims Staff?
the artefact out, if once it's out it starts vibrating around and falling to pieces, then it's going to be counterproductive, isn't it?
So we started when we found this artefact, we were excavating onto the top of the platform in 2014. It was in the edge of the section. We extended the stretch to find the entirety of the artefact. We've had numerous interpretations about what we think it is. One of the issues with dealing with prehistory that is this old and this well preserved is that there really are very few parallels for the artifactual material, because this could have been a very common artifact in the past, but all the other examples are just decayed, which means that we're at a bit of a loss really as to what it is. We've got lots of interpretations. They involve things like someone saying Paul thought it might be a sled, or it could be the handle for a whip. Yeah, the handle for like a whip for a reindeer, or a lasso handle. One of the most common ones I've heard so far is that potentially it's the handle, or the shaft of a scythe-like object. It's got a couple of holes cut into it at the top end, and it's broken across one of those holes, which hence probably why it's been discarded as it's a broken tool. Potentially those holes could have had flints mounted to create a serrated edge, which we would use for cutting sage and grass and things like that. We don't really know. It's got a carved handle on one end, so it suggests that it's a hand tool. We don't really know what it is. But our intention for this area is to drop it down to the base of the platform relatively quickly, to put a core of radiocarbon dates, which we can just outside the trench, to put them all into context, to see if there's anything really going on with them. So that's the general plan, I think, for this. But first of all, this artefact needs to get removed, and because it's an artefact and because it looks like it's one of a kind, it needs to get removed largely intact, we should hope.
Do you think that the breaks would have happened in the dirt after it's been buried, or do you think that happened before?
The fact that it's lying in situ suggests that they've happened after the post-deposition, I think. This break obviously is pre-deposition. We're deep enough that we're way under it. We just try and once the board comes under, the board's going to have to continue somewhere. It will, so we'll cut some distance in.
Speak louder, please. No whispering.
We're just considering how much more material in this context to take out in order for the board to have enough space to fully clear the artefact before it gets lifted upwards.
Thanks, Graham.
Just going to take out a bit more of the platform on this side. So at the end, recorded sample. So the problem with block lifting is that it's fairly impactful on the context that surrounds the artefact, not just the artefact. So you're kind of sacrificing some of the information you got from the surrounding context in order to retain the artefact. So you've got to sort of weigh up the pros and cons. And like I said, this has all been top, and it's already fully recorded this. Everything we've taken out has been taken from sample as well anyway. So in this case, it shouldn't be too much of an impact overall.
I mean, it's impacting upon a pretty rare 6,500-year-old wooden platform, but we've got quite a lot of it, so this artefact is more important basically. We've only got one of these, but we've got 15 metres by 10 metres by 2 metres of platform, so this takes precedence basically.
Worth just
Which side?
much as you can underneath it. The board next to it with some foam on it. Slide it on top.
Fanning around because we don't want to do any damage, but keep this up all day, it's never going to come out the ground, is it?
It's got a little bit of flex to it, isn't it?
It's flex. We haven't damaged it beyond what it was already in the ground.
Is it worth keeping some of the soil that side, Dixon? So when you lift it, it doesn't break. You know,
Sorry?
Is it worth keeping some of the soil that's beneath it?
There is
Is there merit to it?
there is soil underneath it, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so when you lift it, it retains.
It's sitting on a bed of soil. Where we're cutting underneath is there's a good inch of soil above.
Okay. So when you lift it, do you lift it with the soil as well
Yes.
to prevent it
Break.
from breaking?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
You retain some of the soil matrix.
Success.
Right, come on, Dixon. I'll set this.
Yes. 1, 2, 5. No, 3, sir. 3.
Just someone else on the board as well as Dixon.
Slide that over a bit. That's right. Releasing on 1, 2, 3. Go down this. Which way?
It has. It's going there. I think it had pretty much gone, but the soul's.
Yeah. That is as it was in the ground.
Yeah.
It's already gone. Yeah, I was worried that coming from this way, if we hadn't cut all the way underneath, we'd end up pushing it out. But the way we did it was solid enough that we could just lift it and slide as opposed to force the board under, which I feel would have damaged it if it done that way. So that was good.
I think quite impressively we've managed to cut it under it at almost the same level all the way along. Apart from at this proximal end wouldn't be, it's actually quite far down, which means that now as it sits in the box, as Alex pointed out, the crack that it already has is being exacerbated by the fact that there's more soil under one end than there is under the other end. So that's a bit of an issue.
That's right.
Sorry. So definitely think about doing it, cutting a little bit more carefully next time.
Yeah.
If there's a similar artefact, so that we
further on each side, but left a wider plinth for it to be sitting on that we were going to then cut underneath, we'd be able to get the knives or leaf trowels, whatever, underneath a much flatter angle. I was finding that at times the handle of the blade was getting in the way of getting the blade in flat. Anyone else got any thoughts to the process? Anything to add?
I think it was very successful. The fact that we were worried about it cracking the whole time and then we managed to take it out in one piece is a pretty good effort.
I still felt it did feel like it was giving as I was lifting it, just because it was that fragile anyway. But
Well, you could see how the
it's still.
My
in
concern
one
with
piece.
lifting at the same time was that you would be lifting it differently, but you'd be holding it in place, so that the pieces that are broken apart would then be moving against each other,
Yeah.
as opposed to just taking one up, taking another, and then laying it next to each other. So taking out the long piece, which is laying over the short piece, by the look of the crack, the diagonal crack, there would have been less damage between those two
Yeah.
connective areas.
I
But
kind
that's
of feel with how little movement it felt like there wasn't like anything against each other.
Sure.
It was just a tiny little bit. So
I think
great that it's still in one piece.
I think you did well to. I think Tom stitched you up there. He gave you the hard job. Didn't he? I think you did all right.
I mean, what you thought? Did you think it was a,
Talk to Joe
how much of a success did you feel it was?
I thought it was pretty successful actually. The fact that it all came out in one piece is pretty good.
So, what contribution did you have to the overall process?
Great deal.
How about you,
Just
Miranda?
I got to scrape a little to even out the ground around it, which was nice. Spoon. Some delicate work, which I got an appreciation for watching those guys scrape underneath and get all of the dirt out from edges that kind of break underneath.
Now, Jeff, can you just explain to us briefly the process you've been going through to secure the wooden artefact after lifting?
Absolutely. When it was originally lifted, it was picked up and placed on a board, and as a result, this board has then been lifted up and placed in a container. Now, you obviously don't want to just lift up the container and remove it from sight without it being securely placed. So what I'm doing now is just simply cutting up pieces of foam and storing it along the edge so that it fits securely, so then we can eventually hop on and remove it. Along with that, because it came from a damp environment, you want to make sure that you spray down the container and not just so you make sure that the artifact itself is damp, so it's within the same condition that it came out when it was around.
Do you imagine that there will be another layer of packing material placed over the top and before it's secured down, or will it just be boxed up as is?
There will be another layer on top as well, because that'll just further secure the artifact, because you don't want to just secure the sides, you want to make sure that it's not falling out from the top as well. So there's also foam on the bottom, and that just makes it so that it can be safely removed from sight.
In your opinion, how do you think the lift went?
I think the lift
Is there anything you would do differently?
I think the lift went excellently. I would say maybe the only difference is that I would have taken maybe a little bit more dirt from around the edges, or peat from around the edges, just so that it further secures the artifact. But the way that it was lifted up very carefully, they were able to get it all predominantly in one piece, so it was perfect.